So in this video, we're going to look at solving simultaneous equations where you've got three unknowns. You solved the simultaneous equations with two unknowns over the past few years. Now we're moving on to three unknowns. Okay, so we're going to look at the elimination method for solving basic simultaneous equations, and then we're going to go on and look at some more difficult ones where maybe you've got a variable missing. So if you look at the picture here, you've got three planes intersecting, and there's that red line going down to the center of each of the three planes. Now, when we solve simultaneous equations with three variables, essentially what we're doing is we're finding the point of intersection of those three red lines going through the center of the planes, which is the point of intersection of the three planes. So here in our first example, we're going to look at the elimination method. We have three equations. What we want to do is we want to pair up two of them and then another two. So maybe these two and then these two, or maybe the first and last. We'll see in a minute. But the idea is that if we can eliminate the same variable or the same letter from each of our two pairs of equations, then we'll be in a situation where we just have two equations with two variables rather than three equations with three variables. So let's get started. So I'm going to label each of these 1, 2, and 3. That will help to keep it all straight as I'm going through 1, 2, and 3. Right, so let's see, which variable am I going to try and get rid of? I've got x, 4x, 2x, y, 2y, y, 2z, z, and negative 2z. Now, you'll remember from when you did simultaneous equations with two variables that if our variables are the same, but with opposite signs, we're good to go. So I think we're going to go with 1 and 3, and we're going to eliminate z. Now, I'm going to highlight z here, just to remind myself that the z's are the variables that I'm eliminating. Right, so I'm going to write down equations 1 and 2. X plus y plus 2z is equal to 3. And I'm putting a little dash on my z because I don't want to confuse it with a 2. And 2x plus y minus 2z is equal to 9. So what we've got here, the variable that we've decided we're going to eliminate is z, and we've got a positive 2z in equation 1 and a negative 2z in equation 3. So we're already set up, we're good to go. We can add these straight away. As long as the variables have the same coefficient, that number in front of them, and the signs are different, then we're good to go. So let's add them. 2z minus 2z goes away, they cancel. X plus 2x is 3x, y plus y is 2y, 3 plus 9 is 12. So I'm going to label that equation 4 because we've got to keep track of everything here, you know. And I'm going to put a little cloud around it because I think I'm going to be coming back to that in a little while. So remember, we're trying to get from three equations with three variables down to two equations with two variables. So here I've got an equation with two variables. So that's pretty good. Let's keep going and see if we can get another one to match with it. So I need to get rid of the z again. So I'm just going to highlight this third z. I need to get rid of the z again. So I'll have another equation in x and y. Will I go 1 and 2 or 2 and 3? I don't think it matters a huge pile. I'm going to go 1 and 2. 1 and 2. X plus y plus 2z is equal to 3. Now, but if I write down 2, my z's aren't going to cancel, are they? So I need this to be a negative 2z in order for it to cancel. To make that happen, I need to multiply this by negative 2 so that that z will turn into a negative 2z. Here's a little tip I've learned from marking the leave insert. Rather than just writing the times 2 here, you should really write times 2 here, times 2 here, times 2 here, and times 2 here. The reason is, in the leave insert marking scheme, when you write down a multiplication like this, 13 times 2, but you get the answer wrong, it's considered a slip because you've written down what you intended to do. Now, this doesn't work for things like squaring or expanding brackets, but for add, subtract, multiply, divide, if you've written down the calculation and you do it wrong, it's considered a slip, which will actually only cost you 1 mark. Whereas putting the times 2 at the end, and then if you did say 4x times 2 incorrectly, that's not considered a slip because you haven't clearly written down 4x times 2. So I think it's a good idea to put the little times 2 over each term so that often you'll know from doing the simultaneous equations with two variables, you'll sometimes forget the constant that you need to multiply it as well. And when that happens, it'll only cost you 1 mark instead of potentially 3, maybe 4 marks. All right, let's keep going then. We're multiplying it by negative 2. So that's going to give me negative 8x I'll just move that for a second. Negative 8x, take 4y, take 2z, negative 2z is equal to negative 26. Okay, let's pull these guys together. So I've got 2z minus 2z goes away. X minus 8x is minus 7x. Y minus 4y is minus 3y. 3 minus 26 is minus 23. Right, so I'm going to label this equation 5 and I'm going to draw a little cloud around it. And let's look at what we've got. I've got equations 4 and equation 5 are both in X and Y. I'm in a good position here, so I'm going to bring them both down here. Equation 4 and equation 5. Oh, the variables aren't matching up very nicely, but that's okay. We can deal with that in a minute. 3x plus 2y is equal to 12. Negative 7x, take 3y is equal to minus 23. Right. What am I going to do? Will I get my x's to match or will I get my y's to match? I think I'm going to go with the x's. So I'm going to times this by 3 and this by 2. We've already got one positive and one negative, so the signs are good, but I'm going to turn them both into a 6. Now, 6 is the lowest common multiple of 3 and 2. So again, I'm going to write down times 3, times 3, times 3. And I know this looks very messy, but if you're going to lose just 1 mark for a slip instead of 3 marks for a mistake, I think it's worth it. All right, so I need to equation 4 and 5 again. 3x times 3 is 9x plus 3 times 2y is 6y. 12 threes is 36. Negative 7 times 2x. Negative 3 times 2x. Negative 6y. Negative 23 times 2. Negative 46. Okay, my y terms are good to go. 6y minus 6y is gone. 9x take 14x is negative 5x. 36 minus 46 is minus 10. So the fact that this is working out so nicely kind of gives me hope that I haven't made a slip. Your answer won't always be neat, but when it does work out neat, it's a good indicator that you're on the right track. So now what am I going to do? I've got x. I need to find y and z. Now, if I were to sub x into equations 1, 2, or 3, I would still have 2 unknowns, y and z. So that's no good. It's not going to move me forward. If, however, I sub x into equations 4 or 5, I'll just have y. So that will allow me to solve the equation then and find what y is. So let's do that. Will we sub into 4 or 5? Doesn't matter. But I am going to state what I'm going to do. And I'll tell you a little exam tip in a second to tell you why I'm drawing these arrows and I'm stating what I'm doing. I'll explain all this shortly. Sub into 4. So I've got 3x plus 2y is equal to 12. I'm going to label it equation 4 just so I'm clear. That's 3 times 2 plus 2y is equal to 12. Now you can see I've just got one variable. 6 plus 2y is equal to 12. 2y is equal to 6. Y is equal to 3. Put a box around that. Make it easier for your examiner to see it. So now I know x and I know y and I want to find z. Now, there's no point in subbing into 4 or 5 because they don't contain a z. So let's go back to the start. Will I sub into equation 1, 2, or 3? Doesn't matter, you can sub into any of them. Because remember, this point is the point of intersection of all 3 of those planes. And so it's on all 3 of the lines of intersection. So it doesn't matter which one you sub into. I'm going to go with 1 because it looks like the easiest one. X plus y plus 2z is equal to 3. Okay, equation 1. X plus y plus 2z is equal to 3. Put that up there, put that down there. So I've got 2 plus 3 plus 2z is equal to 3. 2z is equal to 3 minus 3 minus 2. Z is equal to minus 1. There we are. We've solved. Now, if the question mentioned point of intersection, the point of intersection of these 3 planes is 2, 3, minus 1 in 3D space, x, y, z. All right, it's time for you to have a go. Before you do, please take your time writing down that example. I do want you to draw in the arrows and use the different colors and use your highlighter, annotate anywhere you need to. It is really important as you make your way through this question that it's clearly laid out. Your examiner is going to struggle to get through these questions in the exam. And so you need to help your examiner in any way that you can. Right, when you're finished with your worked example and you've annotated it, you can have a go at the question on the right. When you're ready, unpause and watch me doing it. Okay, so in that question, you might have started to panic a little bit up here when the X's were going away and the Z's were going away. Just keep the faith, stick with the process. And we got to the answer a lot more quickly here, didn't we? Because we didn't have to solve two equations with two variables. We got straight to finding one of the variables. So we have to be prepared for different types of these questions. And we'll see some other different types as well as we go through this lesson. All right, I've mentioned this earlier. As an examiner for the Leaving Cert higher level paper, I can tell you from experience that marking simultaneous equations questions can be very, very challenging. We do our best, obviously, and we really take time to wade through it, but we are only human. And I think that you could really help yourself by helping your examiner to get through your question clearly. Don't ever scribble anything out completely. If you just draw one line through it, your examiner can still see it. And if there's good stuff in it and stuff that will earn you marks, you will still get the marks. If you scribble it out completely, then you might not be able to get any marks for it. Just draw one line through any mistakes you've made. And then where you do it again, draw arrows showing me where you're subbing in, showing what's going on. Go from this section up here down to that section. Just do whatever you can to make it easier for your examiner to mark, because this question truly is a nightmare to mark. You can maybe even go and finish the whole question and then go back through it and draw arrows to help guide your examiner through it.